Captain Dahayan stepped off the transport shuttle and onto the massive diplomatic vessel called the Celestial Harmony. His boots made soft sounds on the polished floor that seemed to glow with its own light. He had never seen anything like this ship before. It was bigger than any city back on Earth, floating in space above a small moon where dozens of alien species came to talk about trade and peace. Dahayan carried an old leather bag over his shoulder. Inside were his personal things and some gifts from Earth. He was here to represent humanity at the big galactic trade meeting. Humans were new to this whole galactic community thing. Only 50 years ago, they discovered they were not alone in the universe. Now here he was, walking among creatures that looked like living crystals, clouds of glowing gas, and insects the size of horses. The main meeting hall was enormous. The ceiling was so high that Dahayan could not see the top. Hundreds of aliens filled the space, talking in languages that his translator earpiece struggled to understand. Some floated in the air. Others walked on 6 or 8 legs. A few did not have bodies at all, just energy contained in special fields. Dahayan found his seat in the human section. There were only 5 humans at this meeting. Biora, his cultural attach, sat next to him. She was nervous. Everyone was nervous. Humans were still trying to prove they belonged here among these ancient civilizations. The meeting started. Representatives from different species talked about trade routes, mining rights, and technology exchanges. Dahayan tried to pay attention, but most of it went over his head. These species had been traveling through space for thousands of years, some for millions. Humans were like children in comparison. Then she entered the room. Princess Yuna of the Velthari Empire walked through the massive doors and every conversation stopped. She was tall, maybe 7 feet, and her body looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through her in waves of blue and purple. She did not walk like humans walked. She seemed to glide. Her movements perfect and precise like a machine. The Velthari were one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. They controlled hundreds of star systems. Their technology was so advanced that other species could barely understand it. And they were old. Princess Yuna herself was over 3,000 years old, though she looked ageless. Biora whispered to Dahayan, "Do not stare." The Velthari considered direct eye contact from lesser species to be offensive. Dahayan looked away, but he felt frustrated. Lesser species? That was how they saw humans. Primitive, young, unimportant. The meeting continued for hours. Dahayan spoke only once, presenting humanity's request for better access to medical technology. The other species barely listened. When he finished, a representative from the Chiktar Collective, an insect-like species, dismissed the request as premature. Perhaps in another century, when humanity has proven its stability, the alien said in a clicking voice. During the break, most delegates moved to a large observation deck. Dahayan needed air, or whatever passed for air in this recycled atmosphere. He walked to a quiet corner of the deck where a massive window showed the stars outside. That was when he saw her again. Princess Yuna stood alone near the window. It was perfectly still. Her crystalline form reflected the starlight. No guards stood near her. No advisors whispered in her ear. For a moment she looked almost lonely. Dahayan knew he should not approach her. Protocol said humans should wait to be addressed by Velthari royalty, but something in her posture reminded him of himself. An outsider. Someone who did not quite fit. He walked over slowly. "The stars look the same from everywhere, do they not?" he said softly. Princess Yuna turned her head. Her face was beautiful but strange, with features that were almost human but not quite. Her eyes had no pupils, just swirling pools of light. She looked at him for a long moment without speaking. "You're the human representative," she said. Her voice sounded like music, but there was no emotion in it. Perfectly modulated, perfectly controlled. "Is Your Highness?" "Captain Dahayan. I apologize if I am disturbing you." "You are not." She turned back to the window. "I have observed your species. You are very young, very emotional, very chaotic." Dahayan smiled a little. "That is a fair description." Well, they stood in silence for a moment. Daehyun noticed that other aliens were watching them, whispering. A human speaking directly to Velthari royalty was probably causing a scandal. An impulse hit him. Maybe it was stupid. Maybe it would cause problems? But Daehyun had always trusted his instincts about people, even alien people. He reached into his leather bag and pulled out a small wooden box. It fit in his palm. The wood was old and worn smooth from handling. Simple carvings decorated the surface, showing a small child sitting under a tree, looking up at stars. Your Highness, I would like to give you something. A gift from Earth. Princess Yuna looked at the box with what might have been curiosity, though it was hard to read emotions on her crystalline face. What is its function? It plays music. Daehyun opened the lid carefully. A soft melody began to play, a simple tune that his grandmother had taught him when he was young. The mechanism inside was basic, just metal pins on a rotating cylinder. But the sound was gentle and sweet. The carved wooden child seemed to dance in the box as the music played. The melody was a human lullaby, something mothers sang to children to help them sleep. It spoke of safety and love and the promise that tomorrow would come. Princess Yuna froze. Her crystalline body began to shimmer violently, light pulsing through her in chaotic patterns. The music box continued its simple song. Suddenly, alarms blared. Velthari guards materialized from nowhere, their weapons powered up. Other aliens scattered. Biora ran toward Daehyun, her face full of panic. What did you do? One of the guards demanded, moving between Daehyun and the princess. Princess Yuna raised one hand, and the guard stopped. She was shaking now, her entire form unstable. She looked at Daehyun with those swirling eyes, and for just a moment he saw something in them he had not seen before. Something raw and real. Then her face went blank again, smooth and emotionless. She closed the music box with a sharp motion, cutting off the song. Remove this human from my presence, she said coldly. He has insulted me with worthless primitive trinkets. Confine him to quarters pending formal charges. The guards grabbed Daehyun roughly. Biora was shouting something, but he could not hear her over the noise. As they dragged him away, he saw Princess Yuna turn back to the window. She was clutching the music box in her hand. In his quarters later, Daehyun sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. He had just destroyed humanity standing in the galaxy over a wooden music box. Earth would recall him in disgrace. The trade agreements they needed would never happen. All because he wanted to make a kind gesture. But he kept thinking about that moment when Princess Yuna's crystalline form had shimmered and pulsed. That was not anger he had seen. That was something else entirely. 3 days passed slowly. Daehyun's quarters were comfortable, but felt like a prison. Guards stood outside his door at all times. He could not leave. He could not contact Earth directly. All he could do was wait and worry about what he had done to humanity's future. Bora visited him on the 3rd day. She looked tired and scared. She sat down across from him and put her head in her hands. It is bad, Daehyun. Really bad, she said. The Velthari Empire has filed formal complaints with the Galactic Council. They want Earth to issue a public apology. They want us to pay damages. They want trade sanctions placed on all human colonies for the next 100 years. Daehyun felt his stomach drop. All of that because of a music box? They are saying you tried to harm Princess Yuna with some kind of primitive weapon. They claim the gift was designed to destabilize her nervous system or something. I do not understand the technical terms they used. Bora looked up at him with red eyes. The other human delegates want to throw you to the wolves. They think if we sacrifice you, maybe we can salvage the trade agreements. Maybe they are right, Daehyun said quietly. Maybe it would be better if I just took the blame and accepted whatever punishment they decide. Bora's voice was firm. You were trying to be kind. That should not be a crime. That night, Daehyun could not sleep. He lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about his grandmother who had made that music box 60 years ago during Earth's resource wars. She carved it while hiding in a shelter, waiting for the bombs to stop falling. She told him that making beautiful things helped her remember what they were fighting to protect. At midnight, his door opened. Daehyun sat up fast, ready for guards to take him away. But it was not guards. Princess Yuna stood in his doorway. She wore a dark cloak that covered most of her crystalline body. No guards were with her. No advisors. She was completely alone. Your Highness, Deihan said, confused. He stood up quickly. How did you get past the guards? I am Valtheri royalty. I go where I wish. She stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. She pulled back her hood, and Deihan saw that her crystalline form was shimmering again like it had that first day. Light pulsed through her in irregular patterns. She held out the music box. Her hand was shaking. I need you to explain this, she said. Her voice was no longer perfectly controlled. There were breaks in it, fluctuations. I need you to explain what you have done to me. I do not understand. It is just a music box. It plays a simple song. No. Princess Yuna's voice rose. It is not just anything. I have listened to this song 473 times in the last 3 days. I cannot stop. Every time the melody plays, something happens inside me. Something I have not felt in thousands of years. She opened the music box. The gentle lullaby filled the room. As it played, Princess Yuna's entire body began to shimmer more violently. She closed her eyes, and Deihan saw something impossible. A tear. A single crystalline tear rolled down her face. What is this? She whispered. What is this feeling? Deihan understood then. You are feeling emotion. Real emotion. That is impossible. The Valtheri eliminated emotion 12,000 years ago. We evolved beyond such primitive responses. We achieved perfection through genetic modification and cybernetic enhancement. We do not feel fear or sadness or joy. These things make a species weak and chaotic. But you are feeling something now, Deihan said gently. Princess Yuna nodded slowly. She sat down on a chair, which was strange because Valthari royalty never sat. They stood or floated, always in perfect posture. But now she sat, and she looked tired. I remember now, she said softly. I remember being young before the modifications. I remember my mother singing to me. I remember feeling warm and safe. I remember loving her. She looked at Deihan with those swirling eyes. Then they took it away. They said I would be better without it. Stronger. More efficient. For 12,000 years I have existed but not lived. I performed my duties perfectly. I ruled my territories without error. But I felt nothing. Nothing at all. Until the music box. Yes, until your primitive human gift. She laughed, and the sound was broken and beautiful at the same time. Do you know what wonder feels like, Captain? Do you know what it is like to see a sunset and feel your heart expand? I had forgotten. The Valtheri have forgotten. She stood up and began to pace. I showed the music box to 3 of my closest advisors. People I trust with my life. I played them the song. They felt it too. The awakening. They cried. We all cried together for the first time in thousands of years. That sounds beautiful, Deihan said. It is terrifying. Princess Yuna turned to face him. If the Empire discovers what has happened to us, we will be corrected. They will modify our minds again, erase these feelings, make us perfect once more. I will forget this conversation. I will forget what it feels like to care about anything. Why are you telling me this? Because I need your help. I need to understand what happened. How did such a simple thing break through 12,000 years of genetic programming? What do humans have that we lost? Deihan thought about it. He walked to the window and looked out at the stars. We feel things, Your Highness. We feel everything. It hurts sometimes. It makes us do stupid things. We cry and laugh and love and hate. We make art and music and stories because we need to express what is inside us. We are messy and chaotic, and we make mistakes. But we are alive. Truly alive. I want that, Princess, Yuna said. I want to be alive. Then I will help you, Deihan said. But I will need some things from my ship. Personal items. More human culture. Over the next week, Giwan Deihan's engineer friend helped smuggle items onto the Celestial Harmony. Books, photographs, music recordings. A child's drawing, a worn baseball, even a stuffed animal toy. Simple human things that carried emotional weight. Princess Yuna came to his quarters every night. They met in secret, and he shared humanity with her. He read her poetry. He showed her pictures of Earth. He played her songs from different cultures and time periods. He told her stories about his family, about loss and love and hope, and Princess Yuna changed. Her voice carried emotions now. She laughed at jokes. She cried at sad stories. She asked questions with genuine curiosity. The perfect Velthari. Princess was becoming something her people had not been in 12,000 years. She was becoming real. I shared your poetry with 3 more of my people, she told him one night. They felt it too. The awakening. Now there are 6 of us. Will you stop there? Daehyun asked. Princess Yuna looked at him with eyes that now showed everything she felt. How can I keep this to myself when millions of my people are living empty lives? When they do not even know what they are missing? It could be dangerous, I know. But I have felt wonder now, Daehyun. I have felt joy. I have felt my heart break while reading human poetry about loss. I cannot go back. I will not go back. She stood and pulled her cloak around her. Tomorrow, I am going to share what I have learned with my entire delegation. 50 Velthari will experience human culture for the first time. The Empire will find out. Let them. Princess Yuna smiled, and it was the most beautiful thing Daehyun had ever seen. This ancient alien learning to smile like a human. Some things are worth the risk. After she left, Daehyun sat alone in his quarters. He knew that everything was about to change. The simple gift he had given in kindness was becoming something much bigger. He picked up his communicator and sent a message to Biora. Tomorrow, things might get complicated. Make sure our ship is ready to leave in a hurry. Biora replied immediately. What is happening? A revolution, Daehyun typed back. A revolution that started with a music box and a lullaby. 2 weeks later, the celestial harmony was in chaos. What started with 6 awakened Velthari had spread like wildfire. 50 became 200. 200 became 500. And it was not stopping. Daehyun watched from the observation deck as groups of Velthari gathered in corners, sharing small human objects like they were precious treasures. A book of poems passed from hand to hand. Someone had a recording of children singing. Another held a simple photograph of an old couple holding hands. The changes were obvious. Velthari, who used to move with perfect precision, now walked with hesitation and wonder. They stopped to look at things. They touched the walls curiously. They spoke to each other with voices that carried laughter and questions and excitement, but not all Velthari were happy about it. Bo-Ra rushed up to Daehyun, her tablet glowing with urgent messages. We have a problem. A big problem. The Empire knows. How bad? The worst. High Arbiter Taeyong is coming here personally. He is bringing a fleet of enforcement ships. They are calling the awakened Velthari corrupted. They are calling it a plague. Daehyun felt cold. High Arbiter Taeyang was a legend in Velthari society. He was over 15,000 years old, one of the first to undergo the emotional modifications. He believed absolutely in Velthari perfection and had no tolerance for anything that threatened it. When will he arrive? 2 days. Maybe less. Biora looked scared. Daehyun, they are demanding we hand you over. They are saying you deployed some kind of cultural weapon against the Velthari. They want to put you on trial. Maybe I should turn myself in. If it stops this from getting worse, it will not stop anything now. The voice came from behind them. Princess Yune approached with 5 other Velthari. All of them showed signs of the awakening, their crystalline forms pulsing with irregular light. The Arbiter is not coming for you alone. He is coming to correct all of us, to erase what we have become. One of the other Velthari, a scientist named Kyung-Soo, stepped forward. I have been studying what happened to us. The human cultural items did not inject anything foreign into our systems. They simply reminded us of what was already there, buried under thousands of years of suppression. Our emotions were not deleted. They were locked away. The music box was the key, so you can unlock more Velthari, Dahayan asked. It is already happening. We have been sharing human culture across our communication networks. Velthari on dozens of worlds are experiencing the awakening. Millions of them. Kiangsu's voice carried something Dahayan recognized as excitement. We cannot stop it, even if we wanted to. The information is spreading too fast. The Arbiter will stop it, Princess Yuna said quietly. He has the power to shut down entire planetary networks. He will quarantine the affected populations and force corrections on all of us. Dayan looked at the awakened Velthari around him. They were scared, but also determined. They had tasted real life, and they were not willing to give it up without a fight. We need to make a decision, he said. We can try to contain this, apologize, hope for mercy. Or we can stand our ground and defend your right to feel emotions. I will not apologize for becoming whole again, Princess Yuna said firmly. I will fight. The other Velthari nodded in agreement. That night, Earth's ambassador Hannah called an emergency meeting of all human delegates. Dahayan stood before them, feeling like a criminal on trial. Hannah was a stern woman who had worked for 30 years to build good relationships with the galactic powers. She looked at Dahayan with disappointment and anger. Do you understand what you have done? We had treaties ready to sign. Medical technology that could save millions of human lives. Trade routes that would bring prosperity to Earth colonies. And you destroyed it all with a music box. I gave a gift to someone who looked lonely, Dahayan said. I did not mean for any of this to happen. Intent does not matter. Results matter. Hannah stood up and paced the room. The Veltari Empire is threatening war if we do not surrender you for judgment. Other species are watching to see how we handle this. If we look weak or chaotic, we will never be taken seriously in galactic politics. Biora stood up. With respect, Ambassador, if we surrender Captain Dahayan, we surrender what makes us human. We surrender compassion and loyalty and the belief that doing the right thing matters more than political convenience. The right thing? Hannah laughed bitterly. The right thing is to protect humanity's interests. The right thing is to ensure Earth's survival in a galaxy that barely tolerates us. What good is survival if we become something we are not proud of? Beer's voice shook with passion. We taught the Velthari how to feel again. Is that really such a terrible crime? The room erupted in argument. Half the delegates agreed with Hannah, half supported Biora. Dahayan stood in the middle, listening to them fight over his fate. Finally, Jiwan spoke up. He was usually quiet, preferring engines to politics. I have been talking to the awakened Velthari. They are not asking us to fight their battles. They just want us to stand with them. To show the galaxy that emotional freedom is worth protecting, standing with them means war, Hannah said. Maybe it means showing the galaxy something they have forgotten. That being alive means more than being efficient and perfect. The vote was split down the middle. Hannah made the final decision. We will not surrender Captain Dahayan, but we will also not officially support the awakened Velthari. Earth will remain neutral and let the Council decide. It was a politician's answer. Safe, careful, meaningless. When High Arbiter Taeyang arrived, the entire station felt it. His ship was massive, dark, and ancient. It docked with a celestial harmony like a predator claiming its prey. Taeyang himself was terrifying. He was taller than Princess Yuna, his crystalline form darker and harder. There was no light pulsing through him. No irregularity. He was perfectly still, perfectly controlled. Like a statue carved from dark glass, he called a formal gathering in the main hall. Every species sent representatives. Tage stood at the center, his voice cold and absolute. I am here to address a contamination that threatens Velthari civilization. A human has deployed cultural materials that have corrupted the neural patterns of our people. This corruption has spread to an estimated 12 million Velthari across our empire. 12 million. Dahayan had not known the number was that high. I have ordered a complete quarantine of all affected systems. The corrupted individuals will undergo correction procedures to restore their proper neural functioning. The human responsible will be remanded to Velthari custody for appropriate judgment. Princess Yuna stepped forward. Every eye turned to her. She had removed her cloak. Her crystalline form pulsed with chaotic light, showing everyone that she was awakened. "No," she said simply. The room went silent. No one said no to High Arbiter Taeyang. "You dare refuse a direct order." Taeyang's voice did not rise, but there was danger in it. "I dare claim my right to exist as I choose. We are not corrupted, Arbiter. We are awake. For the first time in 12,000 years, we are truly alive." Princess Yuna pulled out the music box. She opened it. The gentle lullaby filled the enormous hall. As it played, hundreds of awakened Velthari throughout the room began to shimmer with light. "Listen to this song, Arbiter. Let yourself feel it. Remember what we used to be before we cut out our hearts in the name of perfection." Taeyang stood perfectly still as the music played. For a moment, just a moment, Daehan thought he saw something flicker in the Arbiter's dark form. Then it was gone. "Your display changes nothing. You will submit to correction, or you will be removed from Velthari society permanently. Then we choose removal." Princess Yuna's voice rang out clear and strong. "We will not go back to being empty. We will not forget how to feel." Awakened Velthari throughout the hall stood with her. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands, and other species were watching. Daehan saw representatives whispering among themselves. The Cheektar delegates were clicking to each other urgently. The lumina were pulsing with unusual patterns. Something had shifted in the galaxy. A question had been asked that everyone would have to answer. Was perfection worth the cost of being alive? The Galactic Council chambers were the largest space Daehan had ever seen. Representatives from 200 species filled the vast hall, sitting in sections organized by stellar region and political alliance. At the center stood a raised platform where the accused would speak. That was where Daehan stood now. He wore his dress uniform, the formal one he had only worn twice before. His hands were not bound, but he felt like a prisoner anyway. Armed guards from neutral species surrounded the platform. Above him, massive screens projected his image so everyone could see him clearly. The charges were read by a Cheektar official. Its clicking voice, translated by machines into hundreds of languages. The human known as Captain Daehan stands accused of deploying cultural warfare against the Velthari Empire. The evidence shows that through calculated distribution of emotional stimuli, he has destabilized the neural functioning of approximately 12 million Velthari citizens. If found guilty, humanity will be classified as a hostile species and placed under indefinite quarantine from galactic society. Daehan listened to the charges with a sick feeling in his stomach. They made him sound like a terrorist. Like he had planned all of this? High Arbiter Taeyang spoke next. His dark crystalline form dominated the chamber even from his seat. The Velthari Empire does not bring charges lightly. For 12,000 years, we have maintained stability through the elimination of chaotic emotional responses. This human has deliberately undermined that stability. He has weaponized primitive cultural materials to corrupt our people's minds. It was a music box, Daehan said, his voice amplified across the chamber. I gave Princess Yuna a music box that my grandmother made. That is all. That is not all. Taeyan's voice was cold. You knew that emotional stimuli would affect Velthari neural patterns. You exploited a vulnerability in our species for strategic advantage. I did not know anything of the sort. I gave a gift to someone who looked sad. The Velthari do not experience sadness. That is precisely the point. Soman stepped onto the platform beside Daehan. She was a philosopher and historian from Earth, brought in to help with his defense. She was small and old, with gray hair and bright eyes that missed nothing. May I speak, Council? She asked politely. The Council Chairman, a floating orb of energy from the Lumina Consortium, pulsed with acknowledgement. You may present your defense. Thank you. I want to address what the Arbiter calls corruption. The Velthari modified their own genetics 12,000 years ago to eliminate emotional responses. They believed emotions made them weak. But what actually happened? Salman pulled up data on the screens above. Charts and graphs filled the displays. Valthari's scientific output has declined by 70% in the last 10,000 years. Artistic production is essentially zero. Cultural evolution has stagnated. Birth rates have fallen to critical levels. These are not signs of a healthy, thriving civilization. These are signs of a species that is slowly dying, Taeyong stood. We are not dying. We are perfectly stable. Stable like a stone is stable. Changing, ungrowing, unliving. Soman turned to address the entire council. The awakened Velthari are not corrupted. They are healing from 12,000 years of self-inflicted damage. That is not for humans to decide, Taeyong said. We chose our path. You have no right to change it. We did not change anything. We simply offered an alternative. The Velthari who chose to awaken made their own decisions. Princess Yuna was called to testify. She walked to the platform with her head high. Her crystalline form pulsed with light, showing everyone that she was awakened and not ashamed of it. Princess Yuna, the council chairman said, you were the first Velthari to experience this awakening. Describe what happened. Captain Dehine gave me a gift, a simple human music box. When I heard the melody, I felt something I had not felt in 3,000 years. Wonder, joy, a connection to something beyond duty and protocol. Her voice carried across the chamber, strong and clear. For 12,000 years I existed but never truly lived. I performed my duties perfectly. I ruled my territories without error, but I felt nothing. Nothing at all? And now? The chairman asked. Now I feel everything. I watch a sunset and my heart expands with beauty. I read human poetry and cry at the sadness and joy in it. I laugh with friends. I care about things beyond efficiency and protocol. I am alive for the first time in my existence. Do you believe you were harmed by this awakening? No, I believe I was saved by it. Taeyong interrupted. You believe you were saved because your judgment is impaired by emotional chaos. This is exactly why we eliminated emotions in the first place. They cloud rational thought. Do they? Princess Yuna turned to face the arbiter. Tell me, Taeyong, when did you last create something beautiful just for the sake of beauty? When did you last feel curious about something that had no practical application? When did you last care about someone for no logical reason? Those things are inefficient. Those things are what make life worth living. More awakened, Velthari testified. Kung Su, the scientist, presented. His research? I've studied the neural changes in awakened Velthari. The emotional suppressors we built into our genetics are still there. But human cultural materials have created new neural pathways around them. It is like water finding a way around a dam. The emotions were always there. We just could not access them. A Velthari engineer named Minji spoke about how awakening had made her better at her job, not worse. Before I designed ships efficiently, now I design ships that are both efficient and beautiful. I care about the people who will use them. My work has improved because I care. The testimonies continued for hours. Awakened Velthari from all walks of life spoke about their experiences. They talked about rediscovering joy and sadness and love. They talked about feeling whole for the first time. Then something unexpected happened. A Chiktar representative requested to speak. The Chiktar were insectoid hive creatures, not known for individual opinions. But this one spoke for itself, not the hive. I am drone worker, 7742. But I have chosen a name. I call myself Bora now. The Chiktar's clicking voice was translated with obvious emotion. I have watched what happened to the Velthari with great interest. The Chiktar have also suppressed individuality for the good of the hive. We have no personal desires, no individual dreams, no sense of self beyond our function. But watching the Velthari awaken has made me question this. Is it worth sacrificing who we are for what we do? Other species began to speak up. A Lumina elder admitted that becoming pure energy had made them efficient, but had cost them the ability to taste food or feel the sun on their skin. A Matharian diplomat talked about how his people had eliminated conflict by eliminating passion. But now they wondered what they had lost. The trial was becoming something else. Something bigger. It was not just about Dehiner or the Velthari anymore. It was about every species in the galaxy questioning what they had sacrificed in the name of progress. Finally, it was Dayhine's turn to speak. He stood at the center of the platform, looking out at 200 species from across the galaxy. I am not a warrior. I am not a diplomat. I am just a merchant captain who gave a gift to someone who looked lonely. I did not plan any of this. I did not know what would happen. But I am not sorry it did. He pulled the music box from his pocket. The same one his grandmother had made. My grandmother carved this during Earth's resource wars. Bombs were falling. People were dying. The world was ending. But she sat in a shelter and carved this box because she needed to create something beautiful. She needed to remember why we were fighting to survive. Not just to exist, but to live, to feel, to create. To love, he opened the box. The gentle lullaby played, filling the enormous chamber. Call us primitive because we still feel emotions. You call our art and music and poetry worthless trinkets. But these things are not weaknesses. They are why we survived. They are why we never gave up, even when giving up made logical sense. They are what make life worth living. Dayan closed the box. You can quarantine humanity if you want. You can call us dangerous. But before you do, ask yourself this question. In all your thousands or millions of years, when did you last feel truly, completely alive? When did you last care about something so much it made your heart hurt? When did you last create something just because it was beautiful? The chamber was silent. Then High Arbiter Taeyong stood. He walked slowly to the platform. For the first time, his perfect control seemed to waver. I remember, he said quietly, 14,000 years ago, before the modifications, I remember loving someone. I remember the way she laughed. I remember the pain when she died. I remember choosing to erase that memory because the pain was too much. His dark crystalline form flickered with the barest hint of light. I told myself I was better without it, stronger, more perfect. But I was lying. I was just afraid to feel pain again. The council chamber held its breath. 6 months had passed since the trial. Daehyun stood on the observation deck of the Celestial Harmony and watched ships arrive from every corner of the galaxy. But these were not warships. These were passenger vessels, transport shuttles, personal craft. They came carrying aliens who wanted to learn about something that had been dismissed as primitive for thousands of years. They came to learn how to feel, the galactic. Council's verdict had been complicated. After 5 days of debate, they reached a decision that satisfied no one completely, but prevented war. Humanity was not guilty of cultural warfare. The Velthari awakening was classified as an unintended consequence of cultural exchange, not an attack. However, human cultural materials would be regulated and labeled as high-impact materials. Species could choose to allow them or ban them within their own territories. It was a compromise. A careful political compromise that let everyone save face. But something had changed in the galaxy. Something that no verdict could control. Biora walked up beside Daehyun. She looked different now, more confident. She had been appointed director of the new Academy of Shared Experience, a facility established on the Celestial Harmony where aliens could come to learn about human culture and emotions. We have 300 students arriving today, she said. Mostly Velthari, but also 15 Cheektar, 7 Lumina, and a Matharian delegation. They all want to experience what they have been missing. That is incredible. It is overwhelming. Bira smiled. Giwan is teaching a music class. Can you imagine? A human engineer teaching 1,000-year-old aliens how to appreciate a simple melody. Ian laughed. How is it going? They cried. All of them. Even the Cheektar, and I did not know they could cry. Juan played them a recording of a mother singing to her child, and they just broke down. Princess Yuna had become the face of the Velthari awakening movement. She traveled across the empire, speaking to crowds of Velthari, who were curious or scared or angry about the changes happening to their society. The empire had split into 2 main groups. The renewed embraced emotions and human culture. The pure maintained the old ways, keeping their emotional suppressors active. Surprisingly, they coexisted peacefully. The pure respected the renewed's choice, even if they did not understand it. The renewed did not force anyone to awaken who did not want to. High Arbiter Taeyong had shocked everyone. After the trial, he requested access to human cultural materials. He spent 3 months in isolation, experiencing everything humanity had created. Music, art, literature, poetry. When he emerged, his dark crystalline form pulsed with light. He was awakened. He did not join the renewed movement. Instead, he resigned his position and became a philosopher. Traveling the galaxy to speak with other species about what they had lost in pursuit of perfection, his speeches were powerful and painful. Talking about the 14,000 years he had wasted being empty, Daehyun met with him once. A private meeting that Taeyang requested. The ancient arbiter looked different now, smaller somehow, even though his physical form had not changed. "I was wrong," Taeyang said simply. "I thought emotions were weaknesses that held species back, but I have spent these months feeling everything I denied myself for 14,000 years, and I understand now. Emotions are not weaknesses. They are the entire point." "What do you mean?" Daehyun asked. "Why do we exist? Why do civilizations build and grow and explore? We told ourselves it was for efficiency, for expansion, for survival. But those are not reasons. Those are just actions. The reason behind the actions is emotion. We explore because we are curious. We build because we want to create beauty. We form societies because we need connection. Take away the emotions, and you take away the reason for doing anything at all." Taejong looked out at the stars. "I spent 14,000 years being perfect, Captain, and it was a complete waste. I could have spent that time loving people, creating things, experiencing wonder, but I was afraid. Afraid of pain, of loss, of feeling too much. And now I feel everything. And yes, it hurts sometimes. I grieve for the time I wasted. I feel pain when I think about the people I could have loved, but chose not to. But I also feel joy when I hear music. I feel wonder when I see something beautiful. I feel alive." He turned to Daehyun. "Thank you for that gift, even though you never meant to give it to me." The changes spread across the galaxy in unexpected ways. The Cheektar began producing their first individual artists in their species' history. Workers who used to have numbers instead of names chose names for themselves. They created paintings and sculptures that expressed individual perspectives. Not Hive Thoughts, the Lumina, who had existed as pure energy for millions of years, began experimenting with temporary physical forms. They wanted to feel things again, to taste food, to feel rain on their skin, to touch someone they cared about. Other species started their own Renaissance movements. Ancient civilizations that had been culturally stagnant for thousands of years suddenly produced new art, new music, new ways of thinking. Earth became the unexpected center of this cultural revolution. The Academy of Shared Experience was just the beginning. Soon there were exchange programs, cultural festivals, and joint artistic projects. Humans worked with aliens to create art that blended perspectives and experiences. Soman led programs teaching philosophy and history. She showed aliens how human thought had evolved through struggle and conflict and growth. How humans had made terrible mistakes but learned from them. How humanity's chaotic emotional nature had driven them to create and question and dream. "We are not special," Soman told her students. "We are just a species that never forgot how to feel. And feeling is what drives everything meaningful in the universe." Daehyun's grandmother's music box became famous across the galaxy. It was displayed in the Galactic Museum with a plaque that read, "The artifact that reminded the universe what it means to be alive." Millions of aliens came to see it, to hear the simple lullaby that had started everything. But Daehyun did not spend much time looking backward. He was too busy helping build the future. He worked with Princess Yuna to establish cultural exchange centers on dozens of worlds. He traveled with Giwan and Biora to teach other species about human culture. He learned from them in return, discovering alien perspectives on art and meaning in life. He met someone along the way, a Velthari named Minji, who had been one of the first to awaken. She was an engineer who designed beautiful ships. They worked together on a project to build vessels that combined Velthari technology with human artistic sensibilities. They spent long hours talking about their different perspectives on beauty and function. They fell in love. It was strange and complicated, a human and a Velthari. But it worked because they both understood what it meant to choose to feel, even when feeling was difficult. 5 years after the trial, Daehyun stood on Earth for the first time in a decade. He had come home to introduce Mingi to his family and to show her where the music box had been made. They stood in the old park, where his grandmother used to take him as a child. The tree from the music box carving was still there, ancient and strong. "This is where she got the idea," Daehyun said, pointing to the tree. "She would sit here with me and tell me to look at the stars. She said that no matter how bad things got, the stars reminded her that there was beauty in the universe worth protecting." Minji's crystalline form pulsed with warm light. She was very wise.
Ow.
She was just human. She felt things deeply, so she created things deeply. They sat under the tree together, watching the sun set. Above them, ships from 100 worlds orbited Earth, bringing visitors who wanted to learn about the species that had reminded the galaxy how to live. A small girl ran up to them. She had Daehyun's eyes and Minji's curious nature. Her name was Nari, and she was the first human Velthari hybrid ever born. She was also proof that the future would be different from the past. "Papa, why do all the aliens come to Earth?" Nari asked, climbing onto Daehyun's lap. "Because we have something they forgot they needed," Daehyun said. "What is it?" "The courage to feel things. The willingness to be imperfect. The understanding that being alive is not about being efficient or perfect. It is about experiencing every moment, the good and the bad, and choosing to create beauty anyway." Nari thought about this. "That sounds hard." "It is hard, but it is worth it." Above them, a Velthari ship passed overhead, its hull decorated with murals painted by awakened artists. On the other side of the planet, the Academy of Shared Experience welcomed its 10,000th student. Across the galaxy, species that had been stagnant for millennia were rediscovering what it meant to grow and change and create. And it had all started with a simple wooden music box and a human who believed that kindness mattered more than protocol. Minji leaned against Daehyun, her crystalline form warm against his shoulder. "Do you think your grandmother would be proud?" "I think she would be amazed." She made that music box in a bomb shelter, hoping it would bring a moment of peace to one child. She never imagined it would bring peace to the galaxy. "It brought more than peace," Minji said. "It brought life." They sat under the tree as the stars came out, 3 beings from 2 different species, connected by love and wonder and the simple truth that feeling things was not a weakness. It was the whole point. The music box sat in a museum, light years away, still playing its gentle lullaby for anyone who wanted to listen. The melody was simple. The mechanism was basic, but the message it carried had changed everything. Some gifts are worth more than anyone could imagine. Some simple acts of kindness ripple across the universe. And sometimes, being human is the greatest gift of all. Years later, when historians tried to explain the Great Awakening, they pointed to technology transfers and cultural exchanges and political agreements. But the people who lived through it knew the truth. It started with one human who saw someone standing alone, looking at the stars, and decided to share something beautiful. That was all it took to change the galaxy. That, and the courage to feel